AM 650 presents your source for leading-edge news and information on today's hottest products and services. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Good evening and welcome to Key Pacific's Talk About Strata. Nice to have you back with us. I'm Stirling Fox, joined in studio by the Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia and Province condo columnist Tony Gioventu. Hi, Tony. Welcome back.
Hi, Stirling. So we're talking about repairs and maintenance today.
We're among other things, but let's take a couple of seconds because every show we do, someone is hearing it for the first time. So let's just backpedal for a couple of quick seconds here, Tony, and talk about, first and foremost, the different types of strata when we're talking about strata in general.
Well, when you're dealing with strata title property, what it is it's a way of dividing ownership of property. So it could be actual physical property like a lot, or it could also be an airspace, which is like condos divided into spaces, or even townhouses, which are divided into spaces that may layer over top of each other or beside each other.
Okay.
So we have two basic types of residential strata units. We have a bare land strata. Now, what a bare land means is the strata lot is the bare piece of land that you've purchased as your strata lot. So it looks like a normal subdivision where you have bought a lot that's 30 by 100 feet. That's your strata lot. The homes and things that are built on it are not shown on the strata plan. What's shown on the strata plan is the strata lot you've purchased. So the buildings themselves on a bare land strata for the residential lots are not generally shown on the strata plan. And what that means is the strata is not responsible to maintain and repair those buildings. They're the responsibility of each strata lot owner in a bare land strata.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one type. The other type is building type strata plans. And that's everything from duplexes to townhouse developments to mid-rises, low-rises, wood frame to high-rise skyscrapers. Everything else falls into the other category where it has some very specific boundaries that show what's part of the strata lot inside the unit and what's part of the common property which is outside of the unit.
And in some of these brand new whiz-bang Vancouver-type buildings, you see multiple types of strata within one actual physical complex, because there might be retail on the street level, then residential at the very top, and in between the two, there might be a hotel.
Well, and they may be all part of the same strata, but they could actually also be three separate strata corporations.
Right.
You know, we historically used to always think as property lines between each other as that line that cuts off our measured property one side to the other on a horizontal surface. But what we're really dealing with is a lot of vertical property lines as well. So we're actually cutting air spaces into property lines as well. So you could actually have the ground floor, all the commercial property being strata plan number 1, the second property being the hotel is strata plan number 2, and the third property being the residential units up top, strata plan number 3. So they could actually be 3 entirely different strata corporations.
I should let you know, friends, that Tony and I are card-carrying members of the largest single population group of the 20th century. We are both boomers. And Tony, for people in our phase of life, strata suddenly becomes perhaps a reality for the first time, because in the case of a lot of boomers, the kids have grown up. They've got this enormous suburban house that, frankly, is just too much work. And they want to consolidate their lifetime of earnings and all of the rest of that, and maybe just move into a smaller, more manageable, and certainly more affordable space. Thus, the move for many of us in the first time in our life into a strata situation, and boy, it's really different from the standard real estate reality that we've been exposed to all our lives.
Well, absolutely, and that whole concept of when the gutter leaks, you get up there and fix it, or you want to make a change to your front door, or you want to put a skylight in, or you want to repaint your house and you want to change the color. All of those concepts go out the window when you move into a strata.
Yeah.
Even if you move into a bare land strata where you're responsible for your own house, there may still be bylaws that control the design of your building and decoration and color and all those types of things. So, you know, when you move into a strata concept, you're no longer an isolated owner who's responsible for your own property and your buildings. You're now collectively responsible. So you don't have the right to make changes to your building without the permission of the strata corporations.
Now, I'm going to throw a curveball at you here that we did not discuss prior to going on the air tonight, Tony. By the way, this is Key Pacific's Talk About Strata. I'm Stirling Fox. Tony Gioventu is the Vancouver Province condo smarts columnist, and there was a big kerfuffle on the television news recently, Tony, where the residents of a downtown Vancouver condo building woke up one day to find out that a building in their neighborhood within the view of most of their units had suddenly decided to become a modern light show and had installed all of these panels up and down one whole side of a downtown building, and all of these people who'd bought into this swanky downtown condo with, I would think, expectations of certain normal conditions, have all of a sudden this new millennium light show going on across the street. What recourse, if any, do all of those people have who are suddenly going, what the heck? I didn't pay for this.
Well, and those are property ownership rights. Those are not within the Strata Corporation, right? They're a separate building. They are a separate property owner.
Yeah.
So they're really bound by the local government bylaws. So the bylaws of the City of Vancouver that deal with lights and noise pollution and signage and all of those issues. And it really becomes a civil matter between the parties. If one party feels that there's some sort of trespass, they're violating their rights, or there's something that is imposing on their use and enjoyment of their property, and it could be a variety of things, from noise to, as you see, a light show, that the visual lights at night, to even construction that's underway. There can be a variety of things that within the bylaws, within the municipality, cause some conflict. So their recourse is to go to the courts if it can't be resolved amicably between the parties.
Yeah, when I watched the show and the reactions of some of the residents of this building, your basic, what the heck? You could pretty much see on the spot that this one was going to be something for a judge to eventually decide.
Well, and this also falls in the expectation when you're in some high-density areas. The anticipation is you move into an area, you're in an 18-floor high-rise, you're on the 16th floor, and the building in front of you is only 6 floors, and you've got this great view. That great view might not last forever.
True.
Right? You might come to the point where that building in front of you is now come to the age where it's ready for redevelopment, and we're starting to see that now with older 4-floor walk-ups or some mid-level buildings that are now coming up for redevelopment, and next thing you know, your view's blocked because there's a new building up in front of you. Nobody promises that that your view of English Bay or of the mountains or of the Fraser, none of those things are eternally uninterrupted. Development can change.
Yeah, but I back to my point about the boomers is that for many people who are going through a significant change in life and lifestyle and opting, or perhaps even considering, some kind of condo residence for the very first time, are stunned by the amount of detail involved in becoming a condo owner. Now, for example, in recent columns in the Vancouver province, you've spent a great deal of time writing and talking about voting and procedures and methods. And why have you devoted so much ink to this one issue that one would think you mark your X, you put it in the box, and away you go?
On the surface, it should be that simple. But the reality is, when you're at a major meeting of a strata corporation and you're about to vote on a major levy that could cost you personally $30,000, $50,000, or $60,000 for your special levy, that's an overwhelming decision. And what you want to ensure as an owner and as the strata corporation, and that is that this decision is carried out in accordance with the legislation. It's carried out fairly, honestly, and that all of the rights of the owners are protected. So rights around privacy, rights around voting rights with respect to how proxies are held and how they're counted and how those votes are executed.
Oh, okay.
And even the ballots, how the ballots are handled. And there's certainly some skullduggery that goes on in some of the meetings around how ballots are collected and how they're put into boxes. And there's certainly been accusations of ballot stuffing, and I've seen it over the years where there's been some questionable practices. There is no need to be able to be doing those things,
right?
Because they're basically unlawful. And we've had some major decisions in the courts around protecting the privacy and the rights of the owners with respect to their voting rights. Strata corporations are not like a society and association where you are a member of the society or the association, and if it doesn't go right, you can just walk away and leave it.
Right, sure.
You can't do that in a strata corporation, right? This is very real, bona fide value of, this is your personal liability, your personal risk, and your real property. So these voting rights, the voting procedures, how the votes are recorded, how they're reported eventually to the owners, and even things like whether you're retaining ballots or not at the end of the meeting, and whether they could be critical for a future dispute in the courts. Even those types of decisions are fairly material when we're looking a lot of the disputes that actually end up into the court system.
Now, suppose the annual general meeting of my Strata Council comes up, and darn if it isn't exactly smack in the middle of my Hawaiian holiday that I've been saving up for months. And yet there are some important issues that I definitely want to input into. I want to vote on some of those issues. Are there legal arrangements by which I can vote in absentia or in advance, or what are those sorts? How are those handled?
There isn't a provision for a variety of reasons. There's no provision for absentee voting, but what there is a provision for you to appoint a proxy.
Okay.
So what you would do is you would appoint someone that you trust. It could be someone else in the strata. It could be a friend of yours, your lawyer. It could be a variety of individuals who you would trust to assign your proxy. You're basically making them the proxy holder. They're standing in your place at the meeting. They're holding your voting card, and you would give them instructions as to how you wish them to vote.
And you have to let the council know that my neighbor from 1B is going to vote in my place, right?
You have to give them a written document, which is the proxy. So when they register in, they will know that that person is representing the proxy for your unit.
Okay.
They'll get a voting card. They'll execute that vote as it comes in. Proxies are a great resource in that it allows people who can't be there, or overseas investors, for example, or you know, people who are just away working, that they just have the ability to be present in some form at the meeting to make their voice heard. They work incredibly well in that sense. Proxies are dangerous, however, when you'll have one person who goes out there and does a little bit of proxy harvesting, and they pitch up at a meeting with 25 or 50 proxies.
Right.
And they pretty much control the outcome of the meeting.
I was just going to say, suddenly you have a block of votes, and suddenly you have some real clout, don't you?
You do. And so there can be a dangerous side to proxies if owners, and oftentimes it's an indication that the owners themselves are not interested in attending meetings.
Right.
Meetings have been acrimonious in the past, or they've gone on for hours, or, you know, there's just all kinds of reasons why people may not attend meetings. It simply may not be convenient. Resort properties. Most people don't attend their annual meetings at the resort properties because they simply don't live there.
Sure.
Right? And so you'll have one or two people who represent most of the votes. So proxies themselves can become a little bit of an overwhelming problem for strata corporations, but it does guarantee as an owner you get a vote if you want to assign your proxy to someone.
There are so many details involved in becoming a condo owner. The whole matter of strata, especially for first-timers, especially for people who are seasoned veterans in the real estate wars, Tony. They turn to strata for the first time many years on into their lives and go, I had no clue it was this complex.
Well, basically, think about it. You're in a business. You're in a strata corporation is a business. You have collective liability, collective use, collective accountability as investors and owners in a strata council. So there have to be rules and procedures for how you deal with all of these things in a fair and an equitable way. And so it seems complicated on the surface, but I always tell everybody, go back to the simplest form and stick with the simplest form of how you conduct your business, and it's always the best way.
This is Experts on Call on AM 650. Tonight, it's Key Pacific's Talk About Strata. And my goodness, isn't there a lot to talk about? I'm Sterling Fox, joined by Vancouver Province columnist Tony Gioventu, and we'll be right back with lots more. Stay with us.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call. And there's more still ahead on AM 650.